Hello and welcome to this new episode of Stay Connected podcast of Orisha. I am Christelle Lacunard, Marketing Director at Orisha Commerce, and it's really a pleasure to host today this new podcast. It's my pleasure to also welcome you, Mark Sellis, Data Scientist at Orisha Commerce. Hello, Mark.
Hello.
So welcome. Maybe as a first question, you could introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about your background.
Yeah, of course. And thanks for having me today here. So my name is Mark Sellis. I'm a data scientist at Orisha Commerce. And I'm specifically working on the product Tweakwise. And that means that I'm responsible for creating AI models, working with data, also applying AI models and stuff like that. Before that, I actually worked in healthcare. I was working on improving image quality of medical scanners, basically. And I did that using new techniques with a specific focus on AI. So recently I made the shift towards commerce, and it might sound like a large difference, but actually if you look at it from a technical perspective, it's actually quite similar. Yeah.
Well, we'll be talking a lot about AI today, more specifically for e-commerce. So since ChatGPT was made freely available, I would say, not a day goes without talking about artificial AI, I would say. Particularly in the e-commerce sector. So why is AI a kind of key issue for e-commerce platforms or product like Tweakwise today?
Yeah, I think everybody has become aware of the potential of AI. I mean, you mentioned ChatGPT. Everybody can just access it right now and work with it. Basically, everybody has an AI assistant right now. And I think it is specifically important for e-commerce because I think it's becoming more and more a tool that you need to keep ahead of the rest of the pack, basically. And I think everybody understands what AI can do right now. But now more the challenge is not understanding what AI can do, but rather how can we use AI within e-commerce and how can we actually add value using AI for our businesses and customers?
It's not about should we have AI, but how to do that, yeah. At Orisha Commerce, one of our promises is to say that we help commerce players to offer the best unified commerce experience. Maybe we can talk a bit about the customer journey and the impact of AI in customer journey. So how does AI has transformed this customer journey or is transforming this customer journey, but in the last recent years, I would say first?
Yeah. So it's very interesting if you look at the recent years. I mean, AI have been around for decades right now. I think the first research was done in the 1940s. But only recently it has really become accessible with ChatGPT. But also within e-commerce, AI has been used more recently already. Over the past years, AI was already used, for example, for predicting what customers might buy. But the big change from these old models towards these new models is that the old models were more rigid. So that means that they were only applicable to very specific tasks. And with AI nowadays, AI has become way more broadly applicable. And I think, therefore, that until now, or until the recent years, AI was already within e-commerce, but more from a supportive role, and that the transformation has yet to begin. So that the transformation is happening now with the search of generative AI. And with generative AI, I mean AI that is capable of actually generating content. And ChatGPT is, for example, an example of generative AI because it's capable of generating text and responses to what you're actually asking.
Yeah, to voice and yeah. So my question now is, let's talk about benefits. What kind of benefits does brands, retailers, but e-commerce players also have on integrating AI strategies in their growth strategies?
Yeah, so you already mentioned the customer journey just now, and I think that's a very important one because we want happy customers, right? And happy customers are more likely to come back and more likely to buy products because they find the products that they actually want to buy. Yeah. And I think especially within the customer journey, there are a huge potential for the application of AI. For example, search, recommendations, but also personalization. But that's regarding the customer journey. We can also take a look at it from a more general perspective. AI is very good at replacing repetitive tasks, so automating repetitive tasks. And I think that's
efficiency and productivity. Yeah.
Yes, efficiency and productivity indeed. And that's very interesting, right? Because that just saves us time and also resources. And also customer insights. AI is also very good at analyzing customer preferences and also customer behavior. So that's also a huge benefit, I think, a huge possible benefit for retailers. And the funny thing about customer insights is that we tend to talk about AI directly, but we could also just use the data on its own, because you don't even always need AI to provide insights. For example, you could use Power BI dashboards for reporting, and that also provides a lot of valuable insights on what customer preferences are and what customer behavior is. Yeah.
Okay, there's also a topic around AI and use cases. So let's focus now on that. And what are the use cases we've already encountering today? And I would say those of tomorrow, because we are here to talk more about tomorrow. What are the most common use cases using AI today in e-commerce?
Yeah, so I think we already touched upon the customer journey, and because of the potential of AI within the customer journey, we are also exactly working there, right? Using AI there. So one example of use cases is that we can use AI to generate synonyms. So if a customer comes to our customer is searching and he or she does not find the product because the search phrase is not recognized. So as an example, let's take the word snack, for example. And if we do not have actually products with the word snack, we will not find it. But we might want to we might want to show chips, for example. To solve that, we can add a synonym for the word snack, which would be a word that is actually a snack, for example, chips. But this, of course, a very manual task. Takes a lot of time, and
But you need to update sometimes also. Yeah.
You need to update this continuously because search behavior is also evolving over time. Yeah. So that's why we chose to create an AI that can do this automatically. So when a search phrase is not detected, a search phrase gave no results, then we have an AI assistant that is able to generate synonyms for that search phrase. And in that sense, a synonym is created. And if next time a customer searches for the same word, we actually can show products that are relevant. So I think that's a nice example. But we can also take it bigger than that, and we can also try to improve search in general. So that's also what we are doing, is that we are using. If I talk about we, then I'm talking about Tweakwise. What we are doing at Tweakwise, and that is AI vector search. And AI vector search is a way of searching that really complements the existing search algorithms. And existing search algorithms are very powerful, but they are also limited in a way. So if you search for the word t-shirt, for example, in a fashion store, then we are going to look up the word t-shirt in the database, and then we find products that are actually relevant. So that works well. But if search phrases become more vague or semantic, think of descriptions of products, for example, then the existing algorithms cannot really solve that problem anymore. And that's, of course, where AI excels, right? AI has an understanding of what text means and also what search phrases mean. Yes, so there's so that's why we, in addition to the existing search algorithms now are also using AR search to improve that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of the points we've been discussing during the preparation of this podcast. We're talking about chatbots and old chatbots versus new one. Well, AI-assisted chatbots.
Yeah.
Finally, maybe we can take the opportunity of that podcast to understand a bit more what is the difference between old and new generation chatbots thanks to AI.
Yeah, that's a very interesting one because I think we all have had the encounter with those old chatbots that are really annoying and just giving the same answers over and over again.
Making us crazy, yeah.
Yeah, and you're just typing, okay, give me an employee, please, because this just doesn't work out. Give me a human, yeah. But the older chatbots were more rule-based. So that means if you type in hello, then it will give a response that was basically programmed. So if there are questions that were not asked before, for example, it will not really have an idea what to do because it has no understanding of text, of language.
It's applying rules.
Yes, indeed. And the new chatbots are actually capable of understanding language. So they're way more flexible and it's also a way more human-like experience and they're actually helpful. And that's what we want, right?
Great. Let's talk a bit more about technology now. Do you see any emerging AI models or technologies that you think that they will change the game again in the next few years, in 25, 26, on short term?
Yeah, well, we already spoke a little bit of generative AI, and I think that would be, if I have to think of one game changer, then it will be generative AI, I think, because it is just highly flexible and very broadly applicable. And I think that might be the basis of really, we already spoke about transforming e-commerce. I think if there is one technology capable of doing that, I think it's generative AI. And we might also move away of these search engines that we are so used to, that we, for example, go to a website and type in our search phrase and then we find products. Just because it's now possible to have more of an assistant to which you can talk, and it can just help you with searching what you want. So you could even ask it the question like, I need to paint a wall, for example, and it will just help you through the process. Or even further, you could also add speech to it, so voice recognition, or even images, so that you can really have a assistant that really understands all types of queries that you can have. Yeah.
Well, we cannot have a podcast talking about AI without talking about challenges, limits of the technology or of the society about the technology. Sometimes we talk about fears about the technology, but about how to use it. I don't know how to use it. I know I'm not trained, or this could replace me in the future. So, as a first question, what are the main challenges that companies will face while integrating AI into their strategy?
Yeah, I think it all starts with how you are using AI. You should always start with a problem or something that you want to improve. That should always be the starting point. And if you have that defined, then you can take a look on what AI methods might help you there. And to do that well, you of course need knowledge. So you either need internal knowledge or partners that can help you with that to bring you further. But this is also closely connected to data, because you cannot just use all AI solutions, because different AI solutions need different type of data. So you need to consider the data that you have. Data must be of high quality, because if you don't have high quality data, it will not work in the first place. You need good data to get good results with AI.
First step.
Yes, in that sense, AI is not a magic button. You just need good data there. And it's also important, as I mentioned, to have knowledgeable teams as well. And then you have also costs, of course. And it's not only implementations cost, it's also maintenance and perhaps scaling in the future if it's working well. So considering that it might also become expensive, it's quite wise, I think, to always start small with a cost-effective problem that you want to solve, but that is from a technology perspective, not too complicated. And if that works and if the confidence grows, then you can scale up and improve and work towards more difficult AI solutions.
It will be the main advice today, I think. Start with working on the data, then define your first objective. What can you afford, and as a brand or as a e-commerce player, yeah. Let's go to talk about ethics now. How can we ensure the ethical and responsible use of AI in e-commerce platform for e-commerce players?
So it might be a no-brainer, but it's always a wise starting point to start with regulation, of course. GDPR is an important one. The data that you are using should be in line with GDPR. So you should carefully take a look at the data that the data that you are using is actually data that you are allowed to use. So that's, of course, an important one. But also monitoring models. So let's say you want to train a recommendation model and you train it on a large set of data, so data points of younger customers. And if you then apply the same model to older customers, it will likely not work. That's just an example of bias. AI models are biased. I mean, they're biased towards the data they trained on. So you should monitor that so that AI models are used for the task where you actually want to use them. But also monitoring over time is very important. And that is because data also changes over time. We already mentioned that behavior of customers changes over time. And that means that data also changes. The model will not change. So if you feed new data towards the same model, behavior will change. So in that sense, it's not only important to monitor models when you are starting to apply them, but also monitor models over time to assure that they are doing the right thing. And also sustainability is an important one, I guess, because we should be aware that AI models, and especially large AI models, have a very large carbon footprint. And you should take that in consideration, I think, because smarter models are generally larger models. So, for example, ChatGPT, again, is a smart model. I mean, we've all seen that. But it's also huge in terms of size of the model.
Topic, yeah.
Yeah. And that's also why it just has a very large carbon footprint. So if you have a simple task that you want to solve, you shouldn't use very smart models, but use models that are actually suitable for the task.
So compliance, monitor models, and ensure that you follow change of behavior and sustainability as a last keyword. How can we reassure e-commerce players and brands about investing in artificial intelligence, and what are they worried about finally?
I think the main concern of people is that we do not really understand how AI works, right? We have no way to measure what the decision making of AI models are. So we call this a black box problem, and that means that AI is still a black box. We do not really understand how it works. And that makes people reluctant to use it. And I understand that because we cannot really understand what's going on, right? So how can we ensure that it's working well? So I think the key is to remain in control. So for example, with the synonyms, the AI synonyms that I just explained, we always allow the customer to remain in control. If they do not like synonyms, they can remove them. If they want to alter them, they can change the synonyms, or they can change it. So
keep the control.
Yeah, keep the control. Yeah, so that's important. And what's also a good tool is that you still use algorithms that we do understand. So when it comes to search, for example, we at Tweakwise choose to combine AI search with the existing search algorithms. So by doing that, you have also a better control of how your entire search function works because you are combining search algorithms in a way that you want it to. So, and if you are okay with the black box and you are like, okay, I trust AI in that one, that's also a good point, right? But you should be able to configure that the way that you want it.
Keep the control still, finally.
Keep the control, yeah.
Well, everyone is talking about AI. It's like a keyword. I've been on an exhibition in the last 2 days, and it was AI.
AI everywhere.
Almost all the booths, yeah, we've seen there. Which advice would you give to e-commerce players looking to launch or improve AI strategies on their e-commerce platforms?
Yeah, I think we briefly touched this already. But as a summary, I think it's important to start with a problem or something that you want to improve. And AI is not a magic button, so AI should never be the goal in itself. If you want to make it work, you need knowledge and good data. And I think it's always smart to start with small and manageable projects. And if confidence grows, then you can work towards more sophisticated and more challenging AI solutions.
Well, we are almost at the end of this podcast today, but let's talk about a bit more about the future on the next 5 years, and how do you see AI on e-commerce sector market evolving for the next 5 years? What will be the key points?
Yeah. It's always really difficult to anticipate and to predict what's going on, especially in AI because it's going so fast. But if I would make a guess, I would still put my money on generative AI. I think that will be used more and more for several tasks, and I think it will be more and more integrated within e-commerce platforms, and that it will be used more and more. And I think we already talked about personalization, maybe assistants that are more answer-based and search-based. I would think that we are more and more moving in that direction in the upcoming years.
Okay, so thanks for sharing your explanations. Maybe at the conclusion, we've been talking, and I've been talking about it earlier in this podcast. So the question finally is not should I go, but how can I go? And step by step, that's your answer. Define the first goal, then define the cost and your budget finally, and ensure that you have the good data to start. To conclude, AI will help e-commerce players to perform better, to offer a better service, and to ensure reaching their growth targets, I would say. What do you think? It's a good plan, finally?
I think it's a good plan, finally. Yes. You should focus on impact. And AI should always help you further. Otherwise, you shouldn't do it.
Great. Thanks for joining us today in Paris. You've been traveling a little bit to join us today. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. And thank you all for listening us today. And stay tuned for the next episode.